Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our weekly Parsha Shiur. This week we are learning Parsha Shemos, and we get to read the beginning. We get to study about the beginning of the story of the Jewish people in Mitzrayim. I heard that a man once approached the Lubavitcher Rebbe in private audience in Yechidus, and he told him that he was having a hard time understanding how Hashem could allow 6 million Jews to perish in the Holocaust. He said, Rebbe, I can't wrap my head around it. How could Hashem allow such a thing to happen? So many Jews, Rachmana litzlan, so much cruelty, so much bloodshed. Worst hour of our people's history. I mean, how could Hashem allow such a thing to happen? He said, Rebbe, I'm really having a hard time with this. Could you please explain it to me? I need an answer. You know, it's disturbing me very deeply. Could you explain it to me, please, Rebbe? You know all the answers. Tell me how Hashem could allow such a thing to happen. And the Rebbe said, I'm not going to answer the question. Why not? 2 reasons, the Rebbe said. First of all, I don't know the answer. I can't give you what I don't have, right? If I don't have an answer, how can I give you an answer? Nobody knows the answer. No human being can ever know the answer. One day, if you want, you can ask Hashem. Maybe Hashem has an answer, maybe not. But the Rebbe said, I can't give you an answer because I don't have one. But there's another reason the Rebbe said why I'm not going to answer the question. Let's say I did have an answer. Let's say I did. Let's say I had an explanation. I still wouldn't give it to you. Why not? Well, said the Rebbe, let me ask you a question. Do you really want an answer to the question? Do you really want a justification and an explanation? Is that the kind of world you want to live in? Is that the kind of headspace you want to live in? Where something like this happens and you can find an explanation to justify it? Something that you're going to say, some idea that will all of a sudden make it... that will all of a sudden make it make sense? That's what you're looking for? You're looking for a some type of an explanation, something that will tie the loose ends together and make it make sense. Who wants to live in a world? Who wants to live in a headspace? Who wants to live in a reality where such a thing makes sense? I don't, said the Rebbe. If such a thing happens, I insist on living in a world and in a reality where it doesn't make sense. What are you going to do with an answer if I give you one? Lay your head on your pillow at night and sleep more peacefully because now you understand it. You see, as human beings, we're hardwired to try to figure things out. We're hardwired to try to make sense out of things. When something happens and we don't get it, we look for an explanation. But sometimes that's the wrong reaction. Sometimes when you see something, such a travesty like this, it's not right to try to sit there and go, oh, okay, well then let me try to figure out why it is that Hashem allowed this to happen. That's the wrong reaction. Number one, it's an impossible reaction because there is no answer. But number two, even if there was an answer, we wouldn't be looking for it. In fact, if there was an answer, we would be looking to refute that answer. I'm not looking for an explanation for how such a thing could happen, the Rebbe said. Instead, what I want is to ask myself every day what it is that I can do to make sure such a thing never happens again. And if I come to the Ribbono Shel Olam and ask the Ribbono Shel Olam the question, and the Ribbono Shel Olam wants to give me an answer, I'll tell the Ribbono Shel Olam, I don't want to hear your answer either. Don't explain it to me. Don't make it make sense. I don't want to understand this. I want to insist wholeheartedly and pure-mindedly that this does not make sense and do everything within my power to make sure it never happens again. This idea, by the way, is one of the explanations for what the Torah means when the Torah says in our Parsha that when Hashem appeared to Moshe Rabbeinu at the burning bush, and Hashem introduces himself, and Hashem says, the equivalent of Shalom Aleichem, Anochi, I am God, the God of your fathers, etc. The pasuk says that Moshe's response is he hid his face. Vayaster Moshe Ponov. Moshe concealed his face. Quote, Ki yorei mehabit el holakim. He was afraid to gaze upon Hashem. He was afraid to gaze upon Hashem. And one of the explanations of this is that Hashem revealed himself to Moshe Rabbeinu at the burning bush. The burning bush, of course, as we'll learn, represents Golus. The burning bush represents Egypt. The burning bush represents all the tzoros that Klal Yisrael are going through. And from the middle of the burning bush, Hashem reveals himself to Moshe Rabbeinu and says, here I am. And on a spiritual level, the rabbis say, Hashem offered to explain everything to Moshe Rabbeinu. He said, I'll explain it all to you. There's a plan, there's a divine mission, there's a reason why the Jewish people have to go through this and experience this, etc. And the pasuk says, Vayaster Moshe Ponov. Moshe hid his face. Ki yorei mehabit el holikim, because he was afraid to look at Elikim. He said to Hashem, don't show me the explanation. Don't make it make sense to me. He was afraid of that. He was afraid of that because he knew that if he understood, or if he saw it from Hashem's perspective, he wouldn't be able as a Jewish leader to truly and completely empathize with the Jews and fight and plead on their behalf. The longest part of the Parsha Shemos, that we study this week, is about a conversation that takes place between Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu. According to Rashi, I'm calling it a conversation. It's more like an argument. According to Rashi, they argued for 7 days. The first time Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu met at the burning bush, they had a 7-day argument, right? So imagine your daughter comes home, you send her off, for a shidduch to go and meet a young man. They're thinking about getting married, starting a long-term relationship, building a future together, having a family, etc. So you send her off on Tuesday night to go for the shidduch. For 7 days, you don't hear from her. After a week, she comes back. No shefala. How was the first date? Oh, Tati and Mommy, you'll never believe what happened. The first date, this young man and I, we argued for 7 days straight. And the argument was intense. And how did the argument end? It ended because he became furious with me. Would you tell your daughter to marry such a guy? Interesting question. So Hashem and Moshe, the first time they meet, they have a 7-day argument. You all know the story. What happens? Hashem taps Moshe. And he tells him, look, you're the one. Now go, I'm going to send you to Parai, and you're going to take the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. You are the Goyel. You are the Redeemer. Hashem says, I've heard their cries, I've heard their suffering. They've suffered long enough. Hashem says to Moshe, you're going to go and you're going to take them out. And Moshe starts with the arguments. Number one, says Moshe, who am I? Mi anochi. Who am I to take the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim? Number two, says Moshe, I'm going to come to the Jewish people and I'm going to tell them that you, Hashem, sent me. The Jews are going to ask me for your name. The Jews are going to say, what's Hashem's name? I don't know what to say. Number three, says Moshe, the Jews are not going to believe me. Number four, says Moshe, I can't speak. I'm not a man of words. Kvad peh, kvad loshen. I'm heavy-lipped and I'm heavy-tongued. Number five, Moshe Rabbeinu says, look, shlach no biyad tishlach. Moshe says, why don't you just find somebody else? Just find somebody else, right? What does that mean? There's many different explanations. Who was he referring to when he said send someone else? Shlach no biyad tishlach. All right, either he was referring to his brother Aaron, or the commentaries say that Moshe said to Hashem, if I take the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim, will this be their final golus? Will this be their final exile? And Hashem said, oh no, there's going to be a first base of Mikdash, and that's going to be destroyed. And the second base of Mikdash, that's going to be destroyed. It's going to take thousands of years until the Jews are completely redeemed. So Moshe says to Hashem, Shlach no b'yad tishlach, just send Mashiach already. Why do we have to put the Jews through all of this, so many highs and lows in all of Jewish history? Anyways, every argument that Moshe Rabbeinu presents, Hashem responds so beautifully and so eloquently and so patiently. When Moshe says to Hashem, Mi onoichi, who am I? Hashem says, I'm going to go with you. When Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, what's you, Hashem's name? Hashem tells him, which is no discussion. We'll get to it in a few minutes. When Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, the Jewish people are not going to believe me, Hashem gives him 3 miracles: a stick that turns into a snake and turns back into a stick, and then a hand that gets covered with tsaras, and the tsaras disappears, and water that turns into blood. Unbelievable. And when Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, I can't speak, I'm not a man of words, Hashem says, what are you talking about? I'm Hashem. Me som pelo adam. Who makes anybody speak? Nothing works. Nothing works. Eventually Moshe says to Hashem, just send somebody else. And the Torah says Hashem gets angry. Hashem gets angry. Hashem Moshe, and Hashem tells him, take your stick and go. At that point in the argument, in the discussion, Moshe no longer speaks, no longer says anything. It seems that he has just accepted Hashem's shlichus. He's just accepted Hashem's mission, and he goes. And he actually does exactly what Hashem tells him to. And of course, it goes terribly, horribly wrong. All of the bad things that Moshe Rabbeinu anticipated could happen. That's exactly what happened. Number one, the Jews get very excited. That's always a bad sign. The Jews are very happy. That's a terrible sign, right? Happy Jews, disaster is coming. So first, when Moshe first comes to tell the Jews that Hashem sent him to take them out of Mitzrayim, they're so excited, they bow down, they're wonderful. Excuse me. But then he goes to Parai, and Parai famously decides that the Jews are lazy. Parai makes their lives much, much worse. And the Jews plead with Parai. They say, why are you doing this to us? Why are you making it worse? And Parai says, it's because of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Jews complain to Moshe. Why are you making it worse for us? And Moshe goes back to Hashem and says, why did you send me? What is the purpose of all of this? And that's basically where the Parsha ends. Hashem tells Moshe, you'll see, everything will work out. All right. But basically, that's where the Parsha ends. Now, for today, here's today's Dvar Torah. If you have a Chumash in front of you, turn to Perek Gimel, Pasuk Yud Gimel. Perek Yud Gimel, Pasuk Yud Gimel, chapter 3, verse 13. This is in the middle of the 7-day argument between Moshe Rabbeinu and Hashem. Hashem wants Moshe to go. Moshe is throwing every excuse and reason at him why he shouldn't go. And the two of them, Moshe and Hashem, are going at it. Okay. Vayomer Moshe el Holokim, and Moshe says to Hashem, Hine anochi bo al b'nei, so I'm going to come to the Jews. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu says, let's assume I accept. Let's go with your line of thinking for a minute. I'll come to the Jews and I'll say, the God of your father sent me, Moshe, to you. The Jews are going to say to me, what's Hashem's name? Says Moshe, what should I say to them? Moshe, and Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, tell them, All right, and then he amended it. Vayomer, you should say, Ey yeshlachani aleichem. It's a whole question. What does that mean? But Hashem's response is, Ey asher ey. Okay. And then the pasuk goes on. Hashem tells him, go and gather the elders of the Jews, etc. All right. Okay, now let's take a step back here and ask a couple of very obvious questions. Number one, the Torah doesn't tell us any of the great yichus, any of the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu. All we know about, by the way, at this stage, when Moshe and Hashem are talking at the burning bush, Moshe is 80 years old, or 79 years old. We don't know anything, at least not from the Chumash itself, about the first 79 years of his life. All we know is that when he was born, he was good, right? At the age of 3 months, approximately, he was put in a basket in the Nile River, and he was taken by the daughter of Paro, where he grew up. Oh, and we know that he killed an Egyptian who was beating a Jew, and we know that he rebuked a Jew who was beating another Jew. That's it. So and we know that he's a shepherd for his father-in-law Yisro, who was the greatest idol worshiper of the time. So why is this individual being chosen, punkt, by Hashem to be the leader of the Jewish people? All right, the Medrash says, because Hashem watched him chase a sheep. Beautiful. He cared about every single sheep. Beautiful. But that's it? Like, that's really it? That because Hashem saw him chase a sheep, so now he becomes, for all eternity, the leader of the Jewish people, the one who will bring the Torah down from Har Sinai, who will split the sea, whose name is practically in every 3 psukim for the rest of the Torah, besides for Parsha Tetzaveh. I mean, the whole thing is called the 5 books of Moses. I mean, what? Who is this guy? Where did he come from? What's his yichus? What's his claim to fame? What did he do that all of a sudden propels him to such greatness? And why doesn't the Torah tell us anything about him? At least later on in the Torah, in Parshas Ba'aloischa, the Torah will praise him. He was humble, and Hashem spoke to him face to face, and there's nobody like him in all the prophets. Beautiful. No, so give him some words of introduction over here. Say something nice about him. I heard that Henry Kissinger was once at an event, and the MC who called him up to speak said to the crowd, the next speaker is Dr. Henry Kissinger. He said, Henry Kissinger needs no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Henry Kissinger. So Kissinger gets up and he says to the MC in front of the whole crowd, he says, Mr. MC, he says, what you said is true. It's true that I need no introduction. Who doesn't know about Henry Kissinger and what he did? And he said, it's true that I don't need any introduction. He said, but I'd certainly like one. I'd certainly like one. Or maybe Moshe Rabbeinu maybe doesn't like an introduction, but he certainly needs one. Nobody heard of this guy. We don't know anything about him. At least not in the Pesukah. Then let's start to analyze the actual arguments of Moshe Rabbeinu in protest to Hashem. Let's go through them one at a time. Number one, Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, who am I? Mi anoichi ke'elech el paroi. It's a very difficult question to understand. What do you mean, who am I? Hashem chose you. Hashem said, you're the one. Hashem said, go to Paroi. Moshe Rabbeinu says, who am I, right? We tend to think of this as a humble gesture. Look how humble Moshe Rabbeinu was. He says, I'm not worthy. What do you mean you think you're not worthy? Hashem said you are worthy. You know better than God? Hashem said, go, you go. Next. Moshe tells Hashem, the Jews are going to ask me your name. This is probably the most difficult argument to understand. The Jews are going to ask me your name. I don't know what to say. All right. First of all, why punkt? Of all the questions the Jews are going to ask, why are they going to ask Hashem's name? Why are we anticipating that that's going to be the Jewish people's reaction? They're going to ask for Hashem's name? Why is that? Why is that the anticipated reaction? Secondly, the Jewish people don't know Hashem's name. We've been talking about Hashem the whole Chumash. Hashem has so many names, 72 names in fact. Why would the Jews ask for Hashem's name? The Jews don't know Hashem's name. Number three, Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't know Hashem's name. Pick one. Hashem, Keil, Rachum, V'chanun, Erech, Apayim, Rav Chesed, V'emes, whatever you want. And let's say the Jews, for whatever reason, don't know Hashem's name. They forgot it. Let's say Moshe Rabbeinu, for whatever reason, doesn't know Hashem's name. What's that got to do with what the conversation? Hashem says to Moshe, go to Mitzrayim, tell the Jews their hour of redemption has arrived, their suffering is over, and it's time to leave Mitzrayim. Oh, we need a name. Right? It's like you go, it's like you go for some kind of legal proceeding, you got to fill out the form. Technicalities, right? You got to fill out the form. The form is filled out incorrect. Imagine somebody tells you, you just won the lottery, right? But in order to get the money, you got to fill out the form. The person says, I don't know how to spell my name. For the love of God, make it up. Next, Moshe Rabbeinu says, the Jewish people are not going to believe me. Also a very difficult argument. V'hein lo yaminu li, Moshe says, the Jews are not going to believe me. Why would the Jews not believe him? All the Jews knew this was a tradition from Avraham Avinu. Hashem told Avraham Avinu at the Bris Bein Absorim that the Jewish people, v'avodim v'inu oisam arba meyes shana, they'll be subjugated and forced into slavery for 400 years, and then they'll be redeemed. And they're redeemed with great wealth. They even knew there was even a siman for this, right? If somebody comes and says pocket pokadati, then this was a siman that they would be redeemed with this name. They heard it from Yosef HaTzadik. They heard it from everybody. In fact, in last week's Parsha, when Yosef dies, Yosef tells the Jews, bury me in Mitzrayim. He tells his brothers, bury me in Mitzrayim. And when the Jewish people leave, take me with you. And the Gemara says the same with all the Shvatim. When they died, they were buried in Mitzrayim, and they told the Jews, when you leave, take us out of Mitzrayim. All the Jews knew that they were going to leave Mitzrayim at some point. So Hashem comes to Moshe and says, go to the Jews and tell them, that point is now. Moshe Rabbeinu says, nobody's going to believe me. Why not? They won't believe me. V'lo yishmu b'koili. They won't hear my voice. They won't listen to my voice. What's the problem? Next, number 4, Moshe Rabbeinu's argument to Hashem is, I can't speak. This has got to be the most bizarre argument in the world. Moshe says to Hashem, I can't speak. Lo yish dvarim anochi. All right, the Medrash goes to town on this. You've all heard these Medrashim 100 times. That when Moshe Rabbeinu was a little baby, he was playing with Paro's crown, and he took it off Paro's head, and he put it on his own head. And the stargazers told him, Paro, this kid is trouble. He's going to end up destroying you. And Bilam was there, and Eev was there, and Yisrael was there, and Setzach Geton. And in the end, they put him as a little baby in front of jewels and in front of burning coals. And he reached out for the jewels, and the Malach pushed his hand, put it on the coals, and he put it into his mouth. Some say and he burned his mouth, right? Some say it was to kasher his mouth from the moment that he was put as a baby on a non-Jewish woman. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu had a speech impediment. Again, very difficult to understand. Very difficult to understand. Hashem has just told you that you're going to go to Mitzrayim, and you're going to tell the Jews their hour of redemption has arrived. And then you're going to go to Paro and tell them, let the Jewish people go. Hashem didn't say you have to give eloquent speeches. Hashem didn't say you have to, recite the Declaration of Independence. Go and do what Hashem said. And in the end, Moshe still doesn't want to go. He just tells Hashem, send somebody else. Send Mashiach. Send Mashiach, right? Send Mashiach. Hashem gets angry. And then Moshe goes. But you don't get the impression that Moshe is very excited about going. Aaron is happy to see him. But you don't ever get the impression in the Chumash that Moshe is excited, happy to be chosen by Hashem as Moshe Rabbeinu. The Goyal, the Redeemer of the Jews. Imagine you had the opportunity. Imagine Hashem came to you one day, but showed up in a burning bush, or a burning tangerine tree, or something like that. And Hashem said, listen, go to a particular place and save the lives of millions of Jews. What would you say? Oh, I have a speech impediment. I burned my mouth when I was a baby. I don't know your name. What would you say? Who am I? I feel too weak. I feel too humble. Send somebody else. The whole thing is so bizarre. And even as Moshe Rabbeinu goes, when you read the Psukim, the Pasuk makes it seem or feel like he only went because Hashem forced him. And he was upset about it. And when things go wrong, he turns right back around to Hashem and kind of says to Hashem, I told you. What is going on here? Excuse me for a second. The commentaries throw even more, seem to throw even more sort of difficulty or more like, I don't want to use the word bad vibes, but like almost negativity, if you will, in this argument between Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu. I'll give you a couple of examples. The Das Kanim says that Moshe asked Hashem, if I accept this mission, will my children also be leaders of the Jewish people? Which is amazing that Moshe Rabbeinu asked that now, at the time of the burning bush, because this turns out to be later in Bamidbar, this turns out to be a very, very sensitive issue between Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu in the end asks that he merit, like his brother Aaron, to have his children succeed him. And Hashem tells him flat out no. Al tikrav haloim, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu. Haloim, the Das Kanim says, is connected to the concept of melucha. We find the word haloim by David HaMelech. Hashem says, Al tikrav haloim, your children will not be kings. Your children will not be leaders of the Jewish people. It's a very sad story of what happens in the end with Moshe Rabbeinu's own children. In the end, the Gemara says, one of Moshe Rabbeinu's grandsons is found in a house of Avodah Zarah. That's a different shiur for a different day. The Baal HaTurim says, so according to this medrash, Hashem was telling him right away, I just want you to know that you will be very famous, you'll be Moshe Rabbeinu, but your children, not so much. Baal HaTurim says something amazing. Baal HaTurim says that Moshe Rabbeinu responds, when Hashem says, Moshe, Moshe Rabbeinu says, Hineni. Whoa, says Hashem, Hineni? You, says Hashem to Moshe, you don't respond to me with the word Hineni. Hashem gave him musar for the way he responded. Avraham Avinu says Hineni. The Avos said Hineni. You, Moshe, you don't get to use the word Hineni. Because the Avos did what I said and they never argued. Because the Avos believed in me and never questioned. I had a different kind of relationship with them. When they said Hineni, they meant it. You, Hashem says to Moshe, you don't give me your Hineni. Hineni is an expression you use when you're ready to go in fire and in water without question. You're arguing with me for 7 days. What are you Hineniing me? And yet in the end, it's all Moshe Rabbeinu. The whole Torah is Moshe Rabbeinu. We call it Torah's Moshe. And yet he argued with Hashem for 7 days. All right, so here's an insight. Let's go back to this issue of the names. Hashem tells Moshe, I'm going to come to the Jews and they're going to ask me your name. There's an explanation here from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Very famous. Moshe says to Hashem, let me tell you what's going to happen. You see, I'm going to come to the Jews and tell them that I was sent by Hashem to take them out of Mitzrayim. The Jews are going to say, okay, what is Hashem's name? Now, what kind of a question is that? Hashem has many names and everybody knows that, and the Jews also know Hashem's name. So the Rebbe explained, why does Hashem have so many names? Why does Hashem have so many names? So in Kabbalah it's explained, and for that matter, I mean, Kabbalah is explained more, but the idea is in Gemara and in Medrash that every name of Hashem represents a different attribute, right? Shem Hashem is Midas HaChesed, Shem Elokim is Midas HaGvura, etc. So Moshe says to Hashem, you know, Hashem, you're sending me to the Jews and you're telling me to take them out of Mitzrayim. Okay. I'm going to come to the Jews and I'm going to say, Hashem sent me to you. I'm going to say to them, the God of your father sent me to you. And the Jews are going to say to me, what is Hashem's name? Meaning, said the Rebbe, the Jews are going to ask, what quality of Hashem, what attribute, which midah of Hashem has allowed us to suffer in Egypt for 210 years? Or in simple words, the Jews are going to ask, where has God been until now? Thank you very much, Moshe Rabbeinu, they're going to say, for coming to redeem us. Thank you very much for being Hashem's shliach. Can we ask you what took so long? Where has God been until now? How could God allow this to go on for centuries without saying anything? All of a sudden, one day, Vayovay Hashem shows up, sends Moshe Rabbeinu. The Jews, says Moshe to Hashem, are going to cry out in pain and ask me, Moshe, who's going to be the one coming to them and telling them it's time for them to leave Egypt. They're going to say, how could Hashem have allowed this to go on for so long? I don't know what to say, says Moshe Rabbeinu. Mo'imar aleim. What do you want me to tell them? I don't know what to say. I have a better idea, says Moshe Rabbeinu. Why don't you, Hashem, go to them directly yourself? You put them in Egypt. You put them in Mitzrayim. Yes, you told them it was going to happen. But in the end, you did it. You didn't send a leader to lead them into Golus. Yes, Yosef is responsible for the Jews, taking the Jews. Yosef is responsible in the end for the Jews going down to Mitzrayim. But he didn't do it intentionally. He wasn't intending to inflict suffering upon the Jews. It was all your Hashem's plan, yes? Yes. So what do you want from me? Hashem says to Moshe. You want me to be your front man? I'm going to go to the Jews and tell them, Hashem sent me to take you out. You ever talk to Jews? You ever talk to Jews? You know what the Jews are going to say? They're going to say to me, says Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu is telling this to Hashem, the Jews are going to say to me, Moshe, why is God hiding behind you? Mashmoy, what's his name? Let him come out and talk to us. We have a din Torah with God. We want to know why he allowed Egyptian king like Paro to bathe in the blood of Jewish babies, Rahman al-Islam, or to stick them into the walls of buildings when there weren't enough bricks, or to rip our children out of our hands and throw them, Rahman al-Islam, into the Nile River. Moshe says to Hashem, that's the first question the Jews are going to ask me. They're going to say, what is God's name? What kind of a God would allow such a thing to happen? And I, says Moshe Rabbeinu to Hashem, I don't know what to say in response, and therefore I don't want to go. I can't face the Jews when they ask me this question. And Hashem tells Moshe, you're going to go to the Jews and you're going to tell them that Hashem's name is Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, the rabbis explain, means that Hashem wanted the Jews to know that He, Hashem, is with us in every hour and in every moment of suffering. And whenever the Jews go through a hard time, be it big or small, that's why Hashem appeared to him in a burning bush. Hashem says, when Jews suffer, I suffer along together with them. No, I cannot give you the answer or the explanation. Jews definitely will not understand it. But please, says Hashem to Moshe, go tell the Jews that they didn't suffer alone for 1 second. Let them not think that they were abandoned, Rahman al-Islam. Let them not think that I, Hashem, was busy with other stuff. I was with the Jews every single moment. When a Jew is in pain, Hashem is in pain along together with them. This is Hashem's response. You know, my friends, the Torah doesn't tell us whether Moshe accepted the response. If it didn't accept the response, we don't know. But Moshe Rabbeinu did go on to tell Hashem that the Jews are not going to believe me. The Hein, says Moshe, as a response to this, the Hein lo ya'aminu li. How can you expect Jews, says Moshe Rabbeinu to Hashem, who've suffered like this for so long, how can you expect them to accept some kind of a logical, Kabbalistic, ideological explanation? You know, you're asking how Hashem can allow such a thing. Just so you know, when a Jew suffers, Hashem suffers along together with them. No. What have you done? Answer the question with a question. The Jews are not going to believe me, says Moshe Rabbeinu. They're going to look at me and say, Hashem is all powerful. Hashem can do anything. Hashem can do whatever he wants, if ever he wants, whenever he wants. What's the need for the Jews to suffer? And what's the need for Hashem to suffer? So if Hashem suffers when a Jew suffers, that makes the question even stronger. So what's the purpose of all of it? Hashem never answers the question. And then Moshe tells Hashem, I can't speak. Lo ish dvorim anochi. I'm not a man of words. I'm heavy-lipped and I'm heavy-tongued. What did Moshe Rabbeinu mean when he said I'm heavy-lipped and I'm heavy-tongued? He meant he had a lisp. He meant he had a speech impediment. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't believe that Hashem could work through him even though he had a speech impediment. On the contrary, the commentaries say, on the contrary, Hashem B'davka chose somebody with a speech impediment. Right? It's very famous. Actually, very beautiful insight. Hashem B'davka shows somebody with a speech impediment. Why? Because if he came and he spoke beautifully, if he was a charismatic speaker, everybody would say, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu came, charmed the king, charmed the people, won them over like sometimes leaders do, and took them out of Mitzrayim. Hashem B'davka chose somebody with a speech impediment. And Hashem said, he's going to take the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. And everybody's going to say, how? Well, Hashem is going to work through him, of course. Moshe wasn't struggling because he had a physical speech impediment. He had one problem, and he wasn't making 5 different arguments. He was making one argument in 5 different ways. He was saying to Hashem, I'm going to come in front of the Jews, and I'm going to tell them the time of your redemption has arrived. And I'm not going to be able to find the words. I'm not going to be able to get the words out of my mouth. Who am I talking to? Jews who have suffered and been beaten for 210 years in Mitzrayim. They never chose this. They were never interested in it. They never asked for it. They don't see the purpose in it. Physically beaten and abused slaves who will struggle not just with their physical slavery, but who will struggle with their slave-like mentality for the rest of their lives till they end up dying in the desert, struggling with this. To these people, I'm going to come to them and I'm going to tell them, that's it, time to go, freedom is here. Time to leave. Moshe says to Hashem, I can't get the words out of my mouth. Lo ish dvarim anochi. How do you speak like that to these kinds of people? The Jewish people are going to ask me, what is going on? How did Hashem allow this to go on for so long? I don't know what to say. You give me an answer, Moshe says to Hashem, that you, Hashem, suffered along with them. They're not going to believe that. What does it mean? The Jews don't believe it? We believe, but what does it mean? How does it help us? So at least if this was the end of all the Jewish people suffering, at least if there would be nothing else after this, right? All right, says Moshe. Akasha, we don't understand. We don't understand. All right, there's lots of things we don't understand. I would go and I would take the Jewish people out of Golos and that would be the end of it. But says Moshe to Hashem, you're not even telling me that this is the end. You're not even you cannot even promise me that the Jews will never suffer again. It's not like their experience, their sentence in Mitzrayim is the end of their suffering. It's still not over. Says Moshe to Hashem, I want no part of this. You have a divine reason. You have a master plan of why you need to torture the Jews. Moshe says to Hashem, you're God. Nobody tells you what to do. But I don't understand it. And I don't like it. And I never will. And I don't agree to it. And I will protest and shout and scream against it. And when the Jewish people come to me, Moshe Rabbeinu, and say, how can Hashem allow this to happen? Moshe says to Hashem, I just want you to know, I'm going to tell them they're right. I will side with them, the Jews, against you, Hashem. And to this, Hashem responds by making this man Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabban Shel Kol HaNaviim, the master and teacher of all the prophets, the Makabel Torah, the one who will bring the Torah down from Sinai, from Hashem, and give it to the Jews, the one who will split the sea, bring the Jews to the border of the promised land, and give us everything we have. Goyal Rishon, Goyal Achron, and everything in between. Hashem says, there we go. That's the leader I was looking for. You see, I asked before, why doesn't the Torah tell us about Moshe Rabbeinu's yichus, about the story of his life? I mean, the Medrash says that he was the king in Midian for 40 years. He was master, strategist. He taught nations how to win wars. He was a miracle worker. He ended up, according to the Medrash, in a prison, in a dungeon for 13 years. His father-in-law, Yisrael, took one look at him and didn't like him. He threw him into prison for 13 years. Tzipora was feeding him secretly. For the first 80 years of Moshe's life, we know virtually nothing about it. But the Torah does tell us that when Hashem came to him and said, take the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim, Moshe argued with Hashem for 7 days and protested. Why? He didn't believe that Hashem could take the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. That wasn't the problem. He didn't believe he could talk physically. That wasn't the problem. Because he was motivated by a deep empathy for the Jewish pain, for the suffering of his brothers, the Jews. He felt it to the core of his soul. And refused to accept any explanation for it. Don't give me excuses. Don't give me promises. Don't give me Kabbalistic explanations. Don't tell me what it accomplishes. I don't want to hear it, says Moshe. Stop the suffering. Take the pain away from the Jew. Forever, not for a day. And the Torah says, Hashem said, you're the one. And to be fair, for the rest of Torah, Moshe and Hashem, it seems like they never quite stop arguing, ever, do they? Whenever any moment of crisis hits, it's always like, like a good marriage, like the husband and wife look at each other and it's like, we're back to the same argument. We're back to the same argument. But if you pay attention, Moshe and Hashem always only argue about one thing. It's always the same thing. It's always the Jews. It's always the Jews. They're always arguing over the Jews. And Hashem says the Jews are difficult. And Hashem says the Jews are stubborn. And Hashem says the Jews don't listen. And Hashem says the Jews sin. And they worship the golden calf 40 days after I told them not to. And Hashem says, what kind of a people are these? And Moshe never lets Hashem get away with it, ever. Moshe says to Hashem, you will forgive and you will forget and you will turn a new page and you will allow them and you will turn a blind eye and you will not destroy them and you will not hurt them, not as long as I'm here. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm the defender of the Jewish people. And to be fair, Moshe says, this is what you, Hashem, signed up for from day one. You knew I was going to do this because this is what I've always done. And even when the Jews turned against Moshe Rabbeinu, as Moshe predicted, he says, I'm going to come to the Jews. They're going to tell me, what's your name? Moshe never stopped advocating for the Jewish people. So what's the Torah teaching us? The Torah is teaching us that the Torah that Hashem has given us is called Torah's Moshe. Because every pasuk that we learn, and every Mishnah that we learn, and every passage of Gemara that we learn, has to make us more and more, has to illuminate for us more and more the path of Moshe Rabbeinu. It wasn't, my friends, like Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't aware of the challenging nature of the Jews. It wasn't like he wasn't aware of how difficult these people are. The Torah says his first day in office or his second day in office, he saw two Jews beating each other. And by the way, who were the first two Jews Moshe is introduced to, Dosan and Aviram. These are the guys, the gifts that never stop giving. But as an eternal lover of the Jewish people, his sentiments were always with them. If you want to study Hashem's Torah, if you want to be a Jew the way Hashem wants us to be, the Torah says it was given through Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu comes to personify, becomes the icon of a Jew who represents one who will fight and protect and empathize and stick up for his fellow Jew. Unfortunately, sometimes we watch people learn Torah and become great scholars and perform mitzvahs and become very holy Jews. But unfortunately, sometimes we observe that the Torah that they learn, the mitzvahs that they observe, makes them judgmental of other Jews. Because of this, they feel less connected to their fellow Jew. They feel the God-given right to rebuke another Jew and say, look at you. You're not frum enough. Your yarmulke is not black enough. Your socks are not white enough. Your shoes are not, shoes are the wrong color, etc., etc. Sometimes when a Jew learns Torah, sometimes when a Jew is appointed to a position of leadership, the position of leadership makes them look at other Jews, God forbid, with a negative light. And the Torah says, Chas v'shalom, learn from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, not for 1 second, ever, so to speak, took God's side in this discussion. Never. Yes, of course, he does what it is that Hashem tells him to do. Of course. In the end, he obeys because we all understand that we don't understand Hashem's ways, and there's stuff here in play that is greater than our understanding. Of course. But Moshe, as the redeemer of the Jews, is the one who, for his entire life, always finds a way to put the Jews first. The Gemara says that Moshe protested to Hashem that the Torah should be given through Rabbi Akiva. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted that the Torah should be given not through himself, through Rabbi Akiva. He said, Rabbi Akiva is a greater scholar than me. Hashem told him, this is what I've decided, finished. Hashem said, it's going to be you. That's the end of it. Hashem said actually the word Hashem used to Moshe Rabbeinu is shtoik, is be quiet. You know what the Gemara says? Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, okay, fine, Rabbi Akiva is not going to give the Torah to the Jews. At least show me what's Rabbi Akiva's reward. So Hashem showed Moshe the way Rabbi Akiva was brutally murdered by the Romans as one of the 10 martyrs, one of the Asar Arugei Malchus. And Moshe protests again. He says to Hashem, Zu Torah v'zu schara. It wasn't just for the Jews of his generation that Moshe protested. He protested for Rabbi Akiva thousands of years later. And again, Hashem tells him, shtoik. Hashem tells him, be quiet. This is what Hashem says, Kach ola b'machshava. This is it. As much as Hashem tells Moshe to be quiet, and as much as Hashem tells Moshe this is the way it is, Moshe Rabbeinu does both, accepts and protests. At every step of the way. We understand that Hashem controls the world. We understand that there are things in play here that are larger than us. In order to see the full picture, you can only do so if you understand all of Jewish history. Hashem could have said to Moshe Rabbeinu, listen, what are you asking me questions for? This is the way it is. Moshe would say, this is the way it is, okay, and off he went. If Moshe would have accepted the suffering of the Jews, he would never be able to take the Jewish people out of Egypt, and Hashem would never have chosen him as the Redeemer. You're not a Redeemer if you're okay with Jews in pain. You're a Redeemer if you're not okay with it. You're a Redeemer if you can look at another Jew in pain, another Jew who suffered, another Jew in Mitzrayim and say, Rebbeinu Shalom, this is not okay. Then you're a Moshe Rabbeinu or a student of Moshe Rabbeinu. Every word of Torah that we learn, every mitzvah that we do has to bring us closer to our fellow Jews. Has to make us more empathetic and more loving and more connected and more defensive of fellow Jews. And has to make us more intolerant of another Jew in pain. I conclude with this. Years ago, I met Jew in Beverly Hills. Very, very special Yid. He was a survivor of the Holocaust survivor. We had some very, very interesting conversations. And one day I said to him, I was a young man then, but I said to him in my ever so sweet and innocent way, I said to him, I want to ask you something. I said, I'm sure in your life you meet people who are obsessed and bothered by stupidity, by nonsense. I'm sure in your life you meet people who are so bothered and so irritated by stuff that is so insignificant. How do you, as a Holocaust survivor, deal with that? I mean, after what you saw, and after what you went through, and after your experiences and the losses, and just it's not, we can't begin to wrap our heads around it. How do you deal with somebody who loses their temper over a parking ticket, or something which in broader context is so insignificant? Does it not drive you, I asked him, doesn't it drive you crazy to watch people get upset in the restaurant because the meat isn't cooked enough or isn't rare enough or because somebody didn't smile at them or look at them the right way? I mean, yeah, how does it not drive you crazy? He told me I'll never forget his answer. He said, you want to know the truth? He said, it's the exact opposite. He said, not only has my experiences not made me cold, not only have my experiences not made me insensitive to other people's pain, but it's the exact opposite. He said, after what I went through, I don't want any other Jew to ever suffer from anything again, even if it's from a pair of shoes that are too small. In other words, he turned the whole thing around. Fascinating. He said, we already suffered enough. No Jew should ever suffer about anything ever again, ever. They're right, he says to me. They're right. Hashem should give the Jews only brachas and only simchas and only nachas. I don't understand it. Like a modern day, he answered me like a modern day Moshe Rabbeinu. It was the example that Moshe said. He said to Hashem, I just want you to know, Hashem. Moshe said to Hashem from day one, from the first 7 days of the talk. Moshe says to Hashem, I just want you to know, if you choose me, I'm never going to be okay with this. I'm never going to let you get away with this. I'm never going to let you down. I'm not okay with this. I will push and I will shout and I will scream and I will protest and fight when I see Jews in pain. I'm not Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu took it in silence most of the time. Yitzchak and Yaakov took it in silence. That was their shlichus. Moshe Rabbeinu says, not me. I'm stubborn and I will never stop, ever. And Hashem said, Mazel Tov, you're the Jewish leader. Mazel Tov, you're the Jewish Redeemer. You will be the one who will teach the Jewish people Torah. They will study it from your mouth and from your hands forever and never stop, because you're an example of what it means to be close to Hashem and a fellow Jew, and never to see oneself as so holy that one can, God forbid, become insensitive to another Jew suffering. May Hashem bless us and protect us all with only simchas and only nachas and only brachas. It is the Parsha this week of Golus Mitzrayim. But the Torah, thank God, spends very little time in the Golus. And please God, next week, Parshas Vayera, we begin immediately to learn about the process of redemption and the Jewish people being freed. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Those of you who are listening in Los Angeles, where it is Nebach Leilenu raining, please stay safe and stay dry and stay warm. And Hashem should continue to bless us all. Good Shabbos.